Well, the lease for the land now occupied by Raffles Town Club will not be renewed once it expires in 3 years. The Singapore Land Authority and Urban Redevelopment Authority says the land will be slated for residential development. The club is located near Stevens MRT station. SLA and URA say redevelopment plans will support housing demand and future residents can benefit from transport connectivity. Real estate agency Hutton says the site will most likely be sold to build private homes since it is in a private residential enclave. The agency notes the area is considered a prime location, opposite the Singapore Chinese Girls' School and also close to attractions like the Botanic Gardens and the Orchard Road shopping belt. The estimated land size is just over 132,000 square feet. If launched today, the agency says the winning land bid may hit above $1,500 per square foot per plot ratio. And for more on what this would mean for owners of the club membership, we're joined by Kelvin Tan, who is Director of Dispute Resolution at Drew and Napier. Mr. Tan, the lease for this land, as we mentioned, runs out in 3 years. How would members be affected given that they just effectively have a 3-year notice to vacate those premises?
I think to begin to understand members' rights, I think we must understand when we talk about clubs, there's a distinction between members' clubs and proprietary clubs. With members' clubs, the members collectively own the assets of the club, and therefore they can together decide the fate, what to do next. With a proprietary club, the assets are owned by an owner, and that owner gets to decide what happens to it. The package of rights that the members would have depends very much on the contract that they have. It would depend on the contract they sign when they bought their memberships, and also on the rules and regulations of the club.
Mr. Tan, as far as the Raffles Town Club is concerned, and as far as those rights are concerned in the way that you've mentioned them, it would have been made known to members when they joined that there was only a 30-year lease on this club, and by extension that the membership would last as long as that. So it wouldn't have come as a complete surprise to members.
It shouldn't. It's government land which has been leased for a certain amount of time, and anyone who looked carefully into it before buying a membership would have known that. Having said that, the rights are with a company, and that company obviously has an interest in continuing to run a club. It may not, obviously cannot build it on the same plot of land, but no doubt it will be looking for something as convenient, as accessible to its members as it can afford. And I'm sure that they will hope to build something that will benefit its members. But that's something that we will have to see. That's something I'm sure management will be working at.
Mr. Tan, very quickly, because you raised this in your answer to the first question, whether it's members-owned or a proprietary club. So one or the other, if you could just,
Yes.
in this particular case, which is it? And if you could also then follow up by clarifying if, say, SLA and URA now saying this land will be slated for residential development, is it possible that those who are members may not have got notice of that until right now? And if that is so, would that count as unusual?
So Raffles Town Club is a proprietary club. If you look, I had a quick look at its rules and regulations, and makes it quite clear that the assets, property belong to the proprietor of the club, not to the members. So what happens if someone is surprised by today's news? In a sense, the starting point is if they had purchased it, presumably they would have had information about the fact that the club sat on land that was on a 30-year lease. And, you know, it's public information. But I can understand that there may have been individuals who, for some reason or other, were not clear about it or didn't know about it. But the extent of their rights very much depends on what they were told when they purchased the club membership, what the papers they signed, and what people represented to them. So anyone, I think, who is surprised will need to look back at what was said to them at that point in time, because that's where the extent of their legal rights are going to be contained.
Mr. Tan, it would seem by your description there that as proprietary members then, that those members don't really have very much room for recourse when it comes to the end of this membership. Is that what I hear you say?
I think if it were the case that there were no club that continued down the road, they would have to look at what people said to them when they bought their memberships. But if it was clear to them, if it was in those documents that you were buying a club that sat on land with a 30-year lease, then that is the set of rights that they purchased. In the same way that if we bought a piece of land with a certain tenure, you could not expect a tenure beyond what was contracted to you. But as I'm saying, the club isn't tied to one piece of land, and the proprietor may look for alternate premises. And if it looks for alternate premises and builds a club, members presumably will be entitled to enjoy the benefits of the club that will exist at the new premises.
Mr. Tan, thank you very much for your analysis there. Kelvin Tan, Director of Dispute Resolution at Drew & Napier.